Hello everybody, Josh12 back here again with another video, and I'm here with another Legends of Tomorrow review. I'm here to give you my official review for DC's Legends of Tomorrow Episode 2 titled Pilot Part 2. Now, of course, if you haven't seen this episode, please go check it out because this review may contain spoilers. But that being said, let's get into the newest episode of CW's newest original program, DC's Legends of Tomorrow. Now, of course, I have to state this right off the bat. This show, I know it's only 2 episodes in, but this show is so freaking great. I know a lot of people, including myself, had a lot of doubts, had a lot of mixed reactions, really had no interest in this program before getting into it. But now that we're in the second week into the show, it just gets better and better. I mean, like, this show, I know I stated the same thing for Supergirl when Supergirl first came out, but seeing as how Supergirl is kind of like fallen from grace to a certain extent, at least in my personal subjective opinion, like, I really hope CW can, like, keep up the momentum that they have for this show all the way through, which I think they could achieve, considering the fact that in comparison to Supergirl, and not to mention Flash and Arrow specifically, and more importantly, this specific program is only 12 episodes, so it's not going to be like a 24 or 23 episode long thing, which I think is going to be amazing. So I'm just saying, like, I know I'm blowing this probably way too out of proportion, but this show is really giving The Flash a run for its money, and I feel like it's more appropriate to say something like that because A, it's a part of the CW family, and B, it's, you know, the same universe and characters of The Flash and Arrow, so it just feels nice to say something like that. Like, man, those CW people, they did good. Those kids, they did great. But overall, getting into the actual episode at hand, essentially it's a continuation of the first part of the pilot, obviously, considering after they found out that Rip Hunter was essentially lying to their faces all along, considering that they're not superheroes of the future, they're basically irrelevant, you know, nobodies of history. So they decide to just take, you know, this mission on their own and not really listen to Rip Hunter. And I feel like the big thing to take away from this episode is the fact that when you do things half-cocked and not really knowing a game plan, you can really screw up a lot, and whatever things that you say, do, or, you know, interact with can have major butterfly effects and ramifications all throughout time and history. And I think that's a major factor into this episode because over the course of this episode, they discover the fact that, okay, we need to find a dagger. What's the dagger? It's a special, you know, phallic symbol that could be used to destroy Vandal Savage. And of course, on the flip side, you have Vandal Savage, who's selling off, you know, freaking, you know, weapons of mass destruction to a group of evil guys. And I want to ask this right before I continue. During the ceremony when Vandal Savage was like selling a nuclear bomb to a whole bunch of bad guys, hey, Damien Dark cameo, but overall, doesn't anybody feel like it felt like an Austin Powers kind of thing? I don't know why, but every time I saw that scene, it felt like Austin Powers, the first one where like Dr. Evil was talking about getting $1 million and, you know, all this group of minions were just laughing and he was I don't know why, but I got like a flashback of Austin Powers, you know, Dr. Evil kind of a scenario. I don't know why, but I just did. But overall, continue with the subplot. They have to find this, but of course, not listening to Rip Hunter, they accidentally leave technology from Ray Palmer's suit, which of course will be used to create even greater weapons of destruction that Vandal Savage will use to take over the universe, and basically Central City and possibly multiple other cities of 2016 are just relics. They're destructed fucking buildings. Its future is time done, basically. So overall, the main concept of the episode is essentially to get the dagger at the same time, kill Vandal Savage, get the technology before Vandal Savage could use it to basically deconstruct time and essentially save the universe, if you will. And overall, this episode was awesome. I loved it. I loved how they used every single beat, every single formulaic like storyline that, you know, they've done in the comic books or other kind of time travel TV shows. I'm just saying, this show just gets better and better and better, and that has a lot to do with the performances of these actors. It's kind of hard to really have like a group of, you know, very like method-y kind of personalities around and have them all make sense to work together, especially when, there's a bad guy, that's another bad guy, that's a scientist, there's some dude who fucking fixes cars, I guess, there's another scientist, and there's a chick who died but who's alive, and she's also an assassin, and she's really hot, and those are two Egyptian goddesses who have wings. It's kind of hard to like mix up all these kind of things, but I feel like all the characters and the actors who portray them bring their A game. I mean, freaking, oh my god, Sarah, she's always awesome. She's kicking so much ass. I love it. The White Canary, I mean, granted, like everyone else, I would have loved it if she just, kept her original name as the Black Canary or the Canary or whatever the fuck they called her in season 2, but man, is she kicking ass, and I'm fully into it. And of course, Firestorm looks amazing. I mean, the new suit looks epic and awesome. That nuclear blast scene was epic and awesome. And Victor Garber, oh my god, Victor Garber, he makes this show special. He's like the heart and soul of this show. He's so freaking, I mean, like, if Brandon Routh and Katie Lotz are like the front runners of the show, like the leaders, if you will, along with, Leonard Snart and stuff, the character, then Victor Garber is the heart of it, because he's so freaking great. He's that very awesome, like, older, fatherly kind of figure to, like, all the other characters, and he's just so great. He's one of the best actors they got on this show, and he's so freaking good every single time they're on screen. And I love, Captain Cold and Heatwave. Like, they play off each other so well, and I love how they interact with everybody else. It's hilarious every time. And Hawkgirl and Hawkman, I mean, Carter and Kendra, I know I had a major problem with them with the premiere episode, I did mention that, but moving off of that into the second week, I feel like they got a little better, and granted, spoilers, they obviously did kick the bucket to a certain extent, with the exception of Kendra, but I have to say, in general, they didn't really accomplish that much in this episode. However, I do feel like the actress who betrays Kendra is getting a little better. I'm just saying, like, she may not be the greatest actress, but man, is she gorgeous, and she's getting a lot better. I'm sorry, I know that kind of makes me sound like a misogynistic douchebag when I say stuff like that, but I'm just saying, I want to hear it from every other fanboy guy, maybe even girl too, out there and say, did anybody even give a shit about anything she said when she was wearing those blue pants? Be real with me. Fucking tell me. She was wearing those blue pants, and I'm like, oh my god, she's like insanely hot, and I really don't care about anything she says because she doesn't really intrigue me as an actress. Not to mention I kind of bashed her in every other episode she's ever been on, whether it be Flash or Arrow, and this show included. But man, those pants and the scenario and the scenes and oh my god. But overall, moving off of that, they did a decent enough job in this episode, and I feel like her moments after the whole Carter Hall death scenario, if you will, I think she really played off well with that. But moving off of that, Vandal Savage, of course, is the front runner. Last week, we didn't really get a lot of Vandal Savage. He was like here and there. He was more of a spiritual villain overall. We were dealing mostly with Kronos. And this episode, however, we got to get really hardcore into Vandal Savage, and I felt like it was kind of odd how they did that. I like the idea of how they played it off last week with him just being like around in the shadows and stuff. In this episode, it felt like they had so many opportunities to defeat him and kill him, but they never got the chance. And even with the big cliffhanger finale epic final boss battle where everyone's battling outside the mansion, and Carter and Kendra are like trying to stop Vandal for once and for all, it kind of falls flat because there's like freaking 10 other episodes that are coming, and we already know it's not going to end here, but the way they left it off, I felt like was just, it was expected, but I felt like the execution of it didn't really play well. And plus, it was very also kind of sadly surprising to see Carter Hall kind of kick the bucket. I mean, granted, I'm not the biggest fan of the actor who betrays Carter. I feel like he's kind of a wooden actor who's kind of, he's not really reaching Carter Hall status. He's more like Chris Hemsworth Thor without the charisma, if that makes any sense. But overall, it is what it is. Vandal Savage, it was cool to see him. It was cool to like have him kick some ass and be very batty, if you will, but other than that, I felt like he should have played off more as a behind the scenes, shadowy kind of villain, but whatever, it is what it is. The episode itself, effects, awesome. battles were amazing. I mean, the 360 shots and the pans and the special effects, all of it that went together, cinematography, they destroyed with this episode. I'm telling you, this show is getting better and better. I'm telling you, I hope CW can really keep up the consistency, because after last week, I was like, I'm sold. I want to watch more. And then this episode happens, and I'm like, I want to watch this show forever. I just do. And with that being said, let's get into the final verdict. Of course, has to go down to a 9 out of 10. I love this episode. I mean, granted, the Hawkgirl, Hawkman stuff, other than Kendra and those sexy hot pants, I like, other than that, I wasn't really into them. Overall, I guess the dealing with Victor Garber's like younger self, like Martinstein's younger self, was kind of annoying and stupid, but overall it was kind of cool and funny. And on top of that, everything else I loved. I mean, I'm finding it very hard to really. It's when it comes to this specific program. When it comes to finding things that I feel are negatives towards the show, it's more or less nitpicky, which I think viewers should keep in mind, which is, this show is so freaking good, and granted it is CW cheese at times, but it's so freaking good, it's hard to like really find any negatives with it. It's just more or less me just nitpicking certain kind of things. But other than that, the show itself holds very well together. It has amazing performances from its actors. The story plays along very well. I feel like the effects have gotten a lot better from Flash and Arrow, and the action sequences and battles are just so freaking great. But with that being said, comment below. Let me know what you personally thought about this episode. Did you love it? Did you hate it? What are your personal thoughts about the deaths of Carter Hall? And of course, what are your personal thoughts on, time travel as a whole, and how, Brandon Routh and Victor Garber's characters could have almost completely screwed up their timelines and futures? Let me know in the comment section below. And of course, your personal speculations and expectations for the rest of Legends of Tomorrow. But with that being said, this is going to be it for my review. I don't know if I'm going to continuously review Legends of Tomorrow. I think I'm going to try and make it like an on and off again kind of a thing. Mostly due to the fact that I'm like kind of burnt out on reviewing only DC stuff, and considering the fact that I'm kind of sick today and I've been reviewing a lot of DC stuff as it is today alone. I don't know, I might not review every single episode of Legends of Tomorrow, but if there is a decent, explosive, amazing episode, I'm probably going to end up reviewing it, and of course I'll review the finale. But with that being said and done, this is more than likely going to be my last review for Legends of Tomorrow, so let me know what you personally think about that. But shameless plug time, follow me on Twitter and Instagram, @Jonch12, subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already, and hope you guys enjoyed. And this has been Jonch12.